you to the launch team and to everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Copy that, thank you. NTD, you are clear to proceed with this launch.
Copy, thank you.
Minutes 30 seconds remaining in the planned built-in hole at T-minus 9 minutes.
For all personnel, the countdown clock will resume in 3 minutes, 30 seconds. NTD ISL. Go ISL. Recorder activation is complete. Thank you. Step 1047. Countdown clock will resume in 2 minutes.
The living space aboard Discovery is relatively roomy and comfortable compared to the earlier manned spacecraft. The two floors in the pressurized cabin together provide 2,325 cubic feet of living space. And on launch, the acceleration is relatively mild compared to the earlier flights. The Saturn V reached about 7 Gs, whereas the Space Shuttle launch and landing forces reach a peak of about 3 Gs.
Clock will resume in 1 minute. Stop.
Standing by to pick up the count in 10 seconds. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2,
Clock will resume on my mark.
1.
3.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
Mark. T-minus 9 minutes.
We are now just 9 minutes away from the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery on a mission to the International Space Station. All the countdown events are being controlled by the ground launch sequencer in the firing room. Here is First Lady Laura Bush, who has come to witness today's launch, along with the invited guests and astronauts' families.
So yeah. My camera is dead.
Good.
Coming up now, the final program pre-launch commands are going to be put on aboard Discovery. And the pilot is going to activate switches to connect to fuel cell essential buses.
Copy.
3 good fuel cells connected to the orbiter. Standing by for retraction of the crew orbiter access arm.
TLS's go for orbiter access arm retract.
Discovery OTC, it's time for you to return to flight. Our hopes and prayers ride with you. Godspeed, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
And OTC Discovery, thank you very much.
That was orbiter test conductor Mark Taffet here in firing room 3. The rotating service structure can be moved back into position very quickly if there's an emergency in about 28 seconds.
The RPS OTC, start your recorders, please.
This RPS recorder's running.
That's the auxiliary power unit chart recorders that are being started.
The PLT OTC, perform APU pre-start.
Inward.
Auxiliary power unit pre-start procedure now being performed by pilot Jim Kelly, and he will actually start those at T-minus 5 minutes and counting by flipping switches in the cockpit. Good pre-start on the APUs.
OTC, PLT, AP pre-start complete. 3 gray compliments.
Governor Jeb Bush there with Laura Bush.
Is Mom with you?
She's right here.
Is Mom with you?
She's right there. She's right here.
Who am I hearing from too? With Dad and
Staying by for APU start now.
TLS's go for orbiter APU start.
PLT OTC, perform APU start.
Inward.
And CDR OTC, reconfigure heaters.
CDR doesn't work.
Copy.
Space Shuttle main engine fuel valve heaters being turned off. Main engine helium purge sequence coming up.
OTC, PLT, APU start complete. 3 good APUs.
OTC CDR heater reconfig is complete.
QC, copy.
T-minus 4 minutes. 4 minutes and counting.
TLS's go for purge sequence 4.
Main engine purge now underway, and the orbiter's aerosurface profile test is beginning. You see Discovery's rudder moving. Main engine gimbal check, steering check coming up. Verifying the main engines now are in start position.
TLS's go for ET LO2 pressurization.
And now we should have retraction of the gaseous oxygen vent arm. The GOX vent arm will pull away from the top of the external tank, the beanie cap so-called.
OTC, PLT. OTC, PLT, caution room member cleared, no unexpected errors. Copy that, thank you. Discovery OTC, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow.
T-minus 2 minutes.
Visors and O2 flows in work.
CLS go for ET, LH2 pressurization. MS5.
External tank bipod heaters now being deactivated.
One minute, 30 seconds.
Sound suppression water system now being armed. T-minus 1 minute. Solid rocket booster joint heaters now being deactivated. Final check of the solid rocket booster commands. Joint heaters being turned off. LOX and LH2 fill and drain valves closed. Solid rocket booster flight data recorders activated. Standing by for the handoff to Discovery's computers. T-minus 31 seconds. The handoff has occurred. Discovery's computers now controlling.
25.
Firing chain is armed.
20.
Sound suppressor water system is being activated.
15.
Brain station systems armed. T-minus 10 seconds. Go for main engine start. 7, 6, 5. 3 engines up and burning. 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery, beginning America's new journey to the moon, Mars, and beyond. And the vehicle has cleared the towers.
Discovery. Houston's now controlling. Commander Eileen Collins confirming Discovery's rolling onto a course for rendezvous with the International Space Station. Launch Discovery's already traveling 400 miles per hour. Altitude 12,000 feet. This is a view from a camera mounted on Discovery's external fuel tank. 3 engines on Discovery are now throttling down to 2/3 throttle to prepare the spacecraft to pass through the area of maximum air pressure and go supersonic. One minute since launch, Discovery speed now 900 miles per hour.
Discovery, Houston, go at throttle up.
Discovery, just go with throttle.
All systems remain go for Discovery. Altitude now 9 miles, 6 miles northeast of the launch pad. One and a half minutes since launch, Discovery's already consumed more than 2.25 million pounds of propellant. It weighs less than half of what it did at liftoff. Speed now 2,000 miles per hour. Altitude 18 miles, 14 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center. Standing by now for burnout and jettison of the twin solid rockets. Booster officer confirms clean separation of the solid rocket boosters. Discovery now on its 3 main engines second stage. Speed now 3,030 miles per hour, altitude 33 miles, 40 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's orbital maneuvering system engines are now firing to assist its climb to orbit. They'll fire for about 2 minutes and 19 seconds. This again a view from the camera on the external fuel tank for Discovery.
Discovery Houston, 2-engine Zaragoza.
Discovery is 2-engine Zaragoza.
That call that Discovery could perform a transatlantic landing at a Spanish Air Force base in Zaragoza, Spain if required. 3 engines continue to operate well. All systems in good condition. Altitude now 254,000 feet, or about 48 miles. Discovery speed 4,500 miles per hour. 85 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center. About 5 minutes left until cutoff of Discovery's 3 main engines. Discovery's altitude now 59 miles. Speed 5,500 miles per hour.
Discovery Houston, negative return.
Discovery is negative return.
That call confirming Discovery's gained too much speed and altitude to return to a landing at the Kennedy Space Center if that were required. All systems remain go for Discovery. Just over 4 minutes to cut off of the main engines. During that time, Discovery will more than triple its current speed to reach the 17,400 miles per hour required to achieve Earth orbit. Discovery 200 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center now. Altitude 65 miles, speed 6,700 miles per hour.
Discovery Houston, press to ATO.
Discovery is pressed to ATO.
That call indicating Discovery could reach a lower than planned but safe orbit on only 2 engines if needed. All 3 engines continue to operate well at full throttle. Speed now 8,000 miles per hour. Altitude 67 miles, 300 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center.
Discovery Houston, single engine Ops 3.
Discovery is single-engine Ops 3.
Discovery can perform a transatlantic landing on only 1 engine if required. All continuing to go well. Altitude 67 miles, 350 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery speed now 9,200 miles per hour. Discovery is rolling to a heads-up position now to assist its performance as it finishes its ascent to orbit.
Discovery Houston, press to MECO and single-engine Zaragoza 104.
Press to MECO and single-engine Zaragoza 104.
Those calls that Discovery could reach its planned orbit on only 2 engines if needed. All 3 continue to operate well at full throttle. Just under 2 minutes to cut off of the main engines now.
Discovery Houston, we see a nominal shutdown plan. You will be go for the plus X and go for the pitch maneuver.
Nominal shutdown plan, go for the plus X and go for the pitch maneuver.
Good copy.
About 1.5 minutes to cut off of the main engines. Those calls confirming that the crew is go to do a plus X maneuver after jettison of the external tank to clear.
Discovery Houston, single engine press 104.
Single engine press 104.
plus X maneuver to clear the tank, and also then a pitch maneuver that will provide handheld photography by the crew through the windows of the vehicle of the external tank after it's jettisoned. 1 minute to cut off of the main engines now. Discovery's speed 13,300 miles per hour, altitude 65 miles, 615 miles from the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's 3 engines are now beginning to throttle back to prevent the spacecraft from experiencing forces in excess of 3 times that of Earth's gravity as it continues to accelerate. Speed now 14,800 miles per hour, altitude 63 miles, 700 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center. 30 seconds to cut off of the main engines. Discovery speed now 16,000 miles per hour. Standing by for cutoff. Discovery's 3 main engines. Booster officer confirms main engine cutoff for Discovery. Standing by now for jettison of the external fuel tank. Live television as Discovery jettisons its external fuel tank. All normal with the cutoff of Discovery's main engines. Discovery performing a maneuver to fire its jets and ensure clean separation from the tank.
We have a good plus X maneuver.
Copy the good plus X. We saw a nominal MECO. Ohms 1 is not required.
Nominal MECO, ohms 1 not required.
Commander Eileen Collins will now begin a manual pitch up of Discovery's nose, pitching it up to a point where the overhead windows of Discovery will be faced toward the tank as it begins to fall away, that allowing Mission Specialist Soichi Noguchi and from the middeck, Andy Thomas, to use handheld and video photography to inspect the tank, photography that will be transmitted down to the ground on day 3 of the mission. Collins will pitch the vehicle up and over to point the windows toward the tank until Noguchi tells her that it's centered in the windows and ready for photography.